friends, in this video I will show you how to program a command line blackjack game. So blackjack is a two-player card game where whoever gets closest to 21 without going over wins. So I won't go over all of the instructions for playing blackjack because you can look those up online. So instead I'll jump straight into the programming. So here I have created an array called cards that contains the 52 cards of a regular deck. So for an ace, I have written it as a 1. In blackjack, an ace can be a 1 or an 11, but to keep things simple, I'll just let it be a 1. So the numbered cards 1 through 10 are all integers, but the face cards, jack, queen, and king are all strings. Here I have used a backslash. So you can use this anytime you want to continue your code on the next line. So this prevents any one line of code from becoming too long. So now I will create a new array called X, where I will take the 52 cards and I will shuffle them. So the sample function takes the cards array and selects 52 items at random without replacement. So essentially, you are creating an array of 52 cards that are shuffled. So the X array looks like this. The first card in the array is called X position 0. The next card in the array is X position 1, all the way to the last card, which is X position 51. So to start the game, we will deal the player the first 2 cards of the X array. Then we will deal the dealer the next 2 cards of the X array. So I will code that now. So I will print to the screen the player's 2 cards because the 2 cards that are dealt are face up so everyone can see the 2 cards. So I have used the string function in case the player has a numbered card, so I can convert the numbered card from an integer to a string. So now that I have this player card string, I can print it to the screen. The next thing I want to do is print the sum of the player's cards. So if the player has an 8 and a 7, then I want to print out that the sum of the player's cards is 15. But before I can do this, I must convert all face cards to 10, because in blackjack all face cards are 10. So if the player has a 5 and a jack, then the sum of these 2 cards should be 15. So I will code that part. So now I can compute the sum of the player's current cards and print that to the screen. Now I will repeat all of this code for the dealer's cards, except that for the dealer, the first card is face up, but the second card is face down, so it is like a mystery card. So while I will compute the dealer's current sum, I will not print that to the screen, because if the second card is a mystery card, then we should not know what is the dealer's current sum. So I will compute it, but I will save it for later. So for the dealer, all I will do for print is I will print out the dealer's first card, and for the dealer's second card, I'll just say that it is a mystery card. Okay, so the next stage of the game is we ask the player if he or she wants to hit, meaning if he or she wants another card. So we will ask the player this question. So if the player types Y, then we will consider this to be yes, player wants to hit. If the player types anything else, then that means that the player does not want to hit. So let's create a variable that will track the number of hit cards that the player has requested. So we will initialize this variable to 0. So right now the player has not requested any hit cards. So two other conditions that we want to keep track of is, did the player win and did the player bust? So right now we will initialize both of those variables to 0. So that means that the player right now has not won and has not busted. So here we can start a while loop. So in this while loop, we will give the player a hit card. So as long as the player keeps requesting hit cards, we will keep looping and keep handing out hit cards to the player. Okay, so if the player says yes, I want a hit card, then the first thing we will do is update hit card number by incrementing it by 1. So the next thing we want to do is print out the player's new cards to the screen. So if the player has a 7 and an 8 and the player hits a 3, then we want to print to the screen that the player now has a 7, an 8, and a 3. So the way we do this is we say, let the new player card string be equal to the existing player card string concatenated with the current hit card. So for the very first hit card, the hit card number will be 0 plus 1. So it will be 1. So hit card number is sent over here. So you have hit card number plus 3, which will be 1 plus 3, which will give you 4. Meaning that the very first hit card will be the 4th position of the X array. So here we have the 4th position of the X array as the very first hit card. So this makes sense because the 0 and 1st position was dealt to the player already. The 2nd and 3rd position was dealt to the dealer. So the first available hit card will be the 4th position of the X array. So this tells us that this code here makes sense. Okay, so now we want to compute the new player sum. So to do this, we must convert face cards to 10. So we just copy the code here. Okay, so now we can compute the new current player sum and print that to the screen. So once we have the player's sum, we have to check for two conditions. First, we want to see if the player has 21, because if so, then the player automatically wins. And then the player should escape out of the while loop. So if the player got 21, then we will set the player win from 0, which we initialize it to now 1. And then we will break out of the while loop. The next condition is if the player's current sum is greater than 21. In this case, the player has busted, so the player automatically loses. So we will set did player bust from 0 to 1, and then we will break, meaning we will escape out of the while loop. So if you reach this part of the code, then that means that the player did not win and did not bust, which means that the player can continue playing. The player can either ask for another hit card or the player can stand. So we have to ask the player again if he or she wants a hit card. Okay, so right now we will run the code to see if it works. Okay, so the player's cards started as a 6 and 8, so the sum is 14. The dealer has a queen and a mystery card. So should we hit? So right now we have 14, so I'll say yes. Okay, so the player's sum was 23. Okay, so the player lost. So let's try this one more time. Okay, so the player's sum right now is 14, so yes, I will hit. Okay, so the player got a queen, so the player busted. So we'll play it one more time. So the player has a king and a 5, so a 15. So I'll hit yes. Okay, so the player busted again. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. We will continue this code in the next video. If you like this kind of video, then please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.